Episode of the Everblack Podcast is brought to you by Death Wish Hot Rods and Customs. Check out their Instagram for all their new t-shirts, caps, beanies, cups, and the all-new Atomic Death lineup.
How you doing, sir?
Good, Debbie. What's going on?
I'm good, man. Everything is good. I'm assuming you cut your hair?
I did. Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How's it feel?
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Do you remember me when I had my long hair?
Of course. Yeah, man. It's like it's so funny. It's as we get older. I remember because in the mid 90s I had the dreads and the bald head and everything. And then people are just like, man, that was cool. Why did you get rid of it? And I'm like, well, because I'm 50 for one. And it smelled like a yak's balls for another. And it's like, and there was a certain point where I had to go in to the bank to get a loan so I could get some studio gear. And I remember just being like, man, you look like Krusty the Clown, dude. This is like no bueno. And when I cut it off, I was so psyched. I remember just being in the shower for like 20 minutes, just like, yeah.
It's good, eh? No, it's true. I had to let it go. And then sometimes you get it's like the phantom limb. You know what I mean?
Limb.
You're like, oh, it's there, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to see you again, man. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, man. It's the same as it was before, just crustier.
Yeah. Looking good though.
Feeling good, man. I think it's important to take care of myself, to be honest. It's like the amount of things that are asked of us is just more and more and more. And I threw my back out a couple of months back, and I just realized, I'm like, man, I can't be immobilized like that. So I got to try and keep things limber to a degree. And that's good for me psychologically as well. It helps the music to have some degree of physical discipline now. I think because it's all so connected. It's like, if I don't feel like shit physically, I can think clearer. Right?
True. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, what are you doing? Heaps of yoga or gymming it, or what are you doing to keep yourself?
I do both, but poorly. But I think it's like, it doesn't require a lot. I think a lot of it for me is just enough to know that I'm not neglecting myself, right? Like,
yeah,
I love yoga, but I'm so shit at it. It's like crazy how bad it is. I am at it. After doing it for many, many years, it's like I still can't touch my toes. It's like trying to undo a rusty lock, but I like it. And I really like the yin yoga as well, the stuff where you just basically just lie down.
I'm good at that. Hey,
I'm pretty good at it.
I'm good at yoga.
Even that I'm a bit crap at. But I think maybe there's something that there's some psychological benefit to just doing it, regardless of whether or not you're any good at it, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to make the effort. Was it Arnold?
Yeah.
Arnold says, even a little bit of effort, a little bit a day, and so mine's usually a little bit a week.
Me, you, and Arnold, man. Yeah, that's like no more accurate of a comparison has been made.
Oh man, well, of course, man, this new album, Lightwork, dude, it's so good. I know.
Really? Thank you.
I love it, man. Like, I much Empath'e, I found a very, very strong connection with it. And, it's just, personal reasons, I guess, but between the two records, it feels like there is a connection there. There's definitely a thread.
Yeah. Well, I always viewed Empath'e. Well, I didn't always view it, but when the pandemic started, it was almost like there's a bridge between Empath'e and what happens after all this shit. And on that bridge is Lightwork and The Puzzle. They're kind of unexpected for me. And one of the things that I found really interesting about it is, I think what got tested and what got asked of us over the past couple of years was way more than a lot of us expected. And perhaps in my life, I felt that maybe because I gravitate towards things that are quiet or more introverted or what have you, that was indicative of some sort of weakness. You know, that strong people need to be confrontational, or you need to be this, that, or the other thing. You know, you have to be verbose and loud and all these sorts of things. And I recognized over the course of the past couple of years that strength exhibits itself in different ways. And for me, the way that I found strength in myself during this period was making a record that was hopeful during a period that was not. And the effort that went into trying to keep it on that path was like a fight in a way that I've never experienced before creatively, because I knew that I didn't want to put all this time and money and effort and resources into something that was just going to make me feel worse. I remember years ago doing Alien by Strapping. And I remember at the end listening to it and just being like, oh, fucking, that makes me feel awful. But I was proud of it because it was right for me. It's where I was at. It was what I was pursuing. But that was a really interesting moment for me too, because I'm like, well, I'm making this music as much for me as I am for anybody else. And I don't want to feel that way. Like, I'm proud of it. And I thought it was awesome. But then I was like, yuck, man. Like, I remember playing Info Dump for a buddy of mine, and it like really fucked him up. And I remember thinking like, well, that's what it was supposed to be though. That's where I was at. That's the trajectory that seems super appropriate with the lifestyle that I had at that time and the activities that I was involved with and the people that I was surrounded with. And it was a great learning experience for me, because I started recognizing that it's like what you put in is what you're going to get out. And so some degree of self-forgiveness and taking care of yourself physically, psychologically, being accountable for your actions with friends and family and people that don't like you or any of these things results in a much different output for me than just saying fuck it and doing a load of drugs and drinking all the time or whatever. And I didn't like that version of me back then. It yielded some really interesting things for me that I still am super proud of, but there's no way that I want to be that person now. There's no way. And so it would have been easy during the course of the past couple of years to just devolve into a type of personal chaos. You know, you just say fuck it and start drinking or like whatever.
Yeah, man.
But I just remember thinking about the past with me. I'm like, man, I didn't like that. And I didn't like what that did. And I didn't like what came out of me in terms of the energy of it. And I didn't like how it made people around me feel. I remember while doing Alien, our family doctor was having nightmares about me, saying, man, I just keep having these dreams of you running around the clinic with an axe, like hurting people.
Whoa.
And I remember thinking, it's funny sometimes how you can put out, you put out a vibe to people, right?
Yeah, man. Yep.
And I realized that my intention for these things is within my my capacity to control to some degree, and I realized that the one thing that I had control over during the pandemic was my reaction to it. And so why Lightwork ended up being this kind of bright and kind of chill statement is because I fought for that in a way that I didn't think I was capable of prior.
You know what? I really like where you are creatively right now. Like, man, I strapping to me is very, very important. Like, I know what you were saying before, like
Me too, man.
Still my favorite fucking metal album of all time. But
I loved it, man.
Yeah, man.
Loved it.
Creatively, I think, and that vibe and positivity you're putting out is really important. And I've actually heard stories of people like with Empath'e, there was one guy I showed, and it completely changed his path, man. Personally, I won't mention who it is, but you know.
I'll say two things. First off, it's flattering and it's amazing, right? But I also feel that artists aren't responsible for the music. We're responsible for actualizing it. You kind of pick it out of the ether. So if you're fortunate enough to be privy to it, then your job is to try and get it as accurate as you can. That's it. It's not like this is your music and this is your art. It's like you heard it and here's the best you can do. But it's funny when I talk about strapping and people say, why don't you want to do strapping again? And I say, because I'm in a different place. Sometimes people interpret that as me feeling like, oh, I'm not proud of it, or I'm trying to bury it. But what's super important for me to be clear about is the same process that yielded City is what yielded Empath'e and Lightwork and The Puzzle and Ziltoid. It's the same thing. It's just the catalyst for what the content becomes changes just because life changes. We're in a different place now than we were in. I remember the first tour I did in Australia. It's like 90, I forget, 96, 97.
Yeah.
But it was like we're in hostels. We played in Wagga. You know what I mean? It's like we were in a van, and it was like, it was so like, it was fun. It was great. But it was a totally different, the hunger and the anger and all these things that came with being 25 were what made that what it was. So if people say you should do that again, I'm just like, well, I can't. There's no fucking way I can. If the thing that is important for me, and to some degree the audience, is the authenticity that made City what it was, then it's completely disingenuous to try and recreate that like half a lifetime later. It's absurd. It's absurd, man. But that doesn't mean I don't love it. I love it. I still listen to it. I'm like, man, that's fucking badass, you know?
So good. But I mean, the new stuff is incredible. And in saying that, do you think the flip of that, do you reckon Devin 25 years ago could write Empath'e and Lightwork?
Of course not. No way. No way, man. You know, it's like even just having children. Like it's sometimes the idea of having kids, you know, people who don't have kids go, I know exactly what you mean. I have a dog. And you're like, you have no idea, man. You've got no idea. No idea. No idea. Unless you're a shit parent. It's like no idea, man. In my opinion. So as much as I could postulate on what it would be like to go through, you know, loss of a bunch of family members and having kids and, you know, good friends getting cancer and whatever, right? Like you can pretend that you understand, but until you do, you don't integrate it into any practical creative way. It's just conjecture. You're just making an assumption on it. And that to me, it's like writing about dragons. You know, it's like you've never met a dragon, man. Like, you know, and the dragon raised his fiery maw and shot, you know, Valkyrie out of the sky. It's like, dude, it's all fantasy until you've really participated in it.
Pretty sure Dio did. Pretty sure Dio was there.
Well, of course Dio did. Yeah, Dory. He's like, I think he hung upside down at night and had a pet smog living in the basement that just fed him talisman and swords. You're right. I stand corrected. Dio had a dragon for sure.
Oh, several. Yeah. Just saw his doco the other night. It was awesome. If you ever get a chance to see it, watch his doco. It's so good.
What's it on? What's the?
It was on at the movies. I went and saw it. At
okay.
Screen.
Okay.
It's cool. It's worth it.
Yeah. All right.
But talking about the videos for obviously Moon People and Call the Void, they're connected and there's part of a trilogy.
Yeah.
So I love, you know, the character who is it Devin or is it a character like?
Well, in absence of any other actor, Devin was available.
Okay. Yeah, you did a good job.
Thanks, man.
Where's that story going? I know it's going to the Lighthouse. and I love that. But what's going to happen when Devin gets to the Lighthouse?
Well, because the third video was filmed in Serbia and I wasn't there, Devin is a very different character. But
I like that though.
Everything that I do, I believe to be an analogy for the process of whatever changes and growth or lack thereof has occurred during a particular period. So it's all an analogy, I guess, right? Like the lighthouse represents, well, anything that you can hold on to and have faith in during a period like that. And I'm not talking in a religious sense, of course, but you know, your ability to handle something, your newfound ability to surrender to your own chaos, or something that's more unequivocal, like we're all going to die, or we were all born, or you know, everybody dies. Your parents die, your friends die, your dog dies, but that's a part of the process, and to resist that seems like the source of so much suffering. I mean, there's grieving that comes along with all those things, but to not just say, okay, fuck it, just let it happen, I think is unnecessarily punishing yourself for something, right? And I think for me, I recognize that a lot of that is my own fears, right? And so the analogy of that lighthouse is just like, well, what can you hold on to? Like, I love the idea of infinity. I love the idea of mathematics. I love the idea of just the concepts of these sort of intangible, infinite concepts. And to me, that's an analogy for something beautiful, something that I wish there was a better word for it than whatever religious terms they throw at it, God or what have you. But for me, it's that is synonymous with the creative impulse that music comes from, or from where birth or death or how plants grow, or all these sorts of things. I mean, it's something that's like during periods of the social dialogue being so toxic, you can be privy to a thunderstorm or to an ocean and just be like, wow, our and that's on Earth, which is nothing, right? It's like, but those things remind me at least of like, oh right, don't forget that is fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
don't forget. And so the analogy for that in the films, I guess, or these videos, are just trying to find that in a place that's unfamiliar. And the lack of familiarity is less about a physical place and more about where do you find yourself after a pandemic? Where do you find yourself after social media and war and all these things? And how much of that can you believe in, like truly? And how much of it is just an abstraction that you need to try and navigate so that you don't lose sight of the fact that it's like just human beings being children, right? I mean, so that's the analogy of those videos, I guess. And so when it gets to the Lightworker video, yeah, you'll see. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. They send the first draft of it tomorrow, so I'm looking for it. I hope it doesn't suck, because the idea, I think, is pretty cool.
I can't wait to see it, man. I can't wait to see it.
Me too.
Man. Oh man, I've just been told we're running out of time. But Devin, man, just one last thing. Australian tour, fingers crossed. Is it something happening? Little something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, but no one told me not to. But November 2023 is when I'll be back.
It's my birthday in November.
There we go.
Happy birthday! Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Devin, as always, it's always good to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for hanging out again.
Of course, buddy.
And man, I hope you and your family and everybody enjoys the rest of the year. And we'll have all the links down here to Lightwork, mate. Much love as always. Take care. We'll see you soon.
You too. See you, brother.